Hello, everyone. I'm Tyler Edlin with Adam Duff here.
How are you?
We're going to be critiquing Brush Sauce Theater. I believe this is challenge number 12. The
Yeah.
theme is conflict with a god.
Conflict with the God. Yeah.
And as always, if we mispronounce your name, we apologize. And we kind of come from two different backgrounds, but we'll be kind of coming at these unbiasedly and with the aim that these were kind of with an illustrative context in mind. If it
Absolutely.
was like a trading card game, a tabletop game, that sort of thing, just
Yeah.
general illustrative feel. That's the standard we'll be holding everybody to.
And as far as the points that we'll be critiquing for this, as far as what we're going to be critiquing, we'll be looking at composition, whether we're sticking to the actual narrative,
Yep.
um, and rendering and final quality.
Basically, clarity and finish.
There you go. All
All
right.
right, let's begin.
So we'll start top left to bottom
Yep, and we'll
right.
be timing these and try to keep everybody moving. So,
Yeah.
Anton.
Yeah. Okay, so Anton M. Always good idea, by the way, when you're submitting a piece of artwork to include your full last name, not just an
No,
M.
this was me. I abbreviated a lot of them because
Ah, okay.
if you don't upload your file with your full name on it, I'm just going to last name it like that, like this, just because it's easier for us.
Yeah, because remember, it is exposure for you. So for me, right off the bat, looking at this, I think out of all of the pieces, the one thing that really stood out for this successfully was capturing the narrative of the god, getting that epic sense of
It
scale.
has that scale.
You're basically making those humans look like they don't stand a chance, right?
Yep.
Which is fantastic. What about you? How about you?
Yeah, I agree. And there's a few little touch ups I would do on this to kind of give it a little bit more of a professional polish.
Hmm.
A little bit of specular highlights on all the metal helmets that are in the that would really kind of pick up that blue light, the water.
Yeah,
And then on the same time, the water looks good and I like the energy of it, but it's a little bit too loose. It could be refined a bit more, so I would define a little bit more how those waves are kind of exactly cutting and splashing around. Lots
yeah,
of more loose type of free drips. I mean, just go on a binge with getting wave reference and really just gonna put a little research in regarding that.
yeah, yeah. Water is by its nature very tough to paint, so it does require time and energy if you want to get it, if you really want to make it look awesome, right?
Yeah. Maybe
Yep.
showing the top, like the cusp of the waves, and then maybe a little bit of a dark or light sky behind him. You could do like that. The waves are just surrounding them, like it's a giant arena or something, and can create a much richer context.
Absolutely. Last thing I would point out here is just be careful a little bit with how everything is pretty much the same value. It's been darkened out quite a bit, and as such, it's very difficult to feel the depth. The fact that the hand is closer than the body, type of idea, and we lose a lot of detail in here unless we come up close and start looking up close and trying to figure things out. So what I would do is find excuses to light this guy up a little bit more, maybe some bounce light hitting off of the water or something like that.
Hmm.
Otherwise, we lose a lot of information in the dark, and you want to be
And
careful of
and
that.
just watch the tangent of the sword in the foreground with the guy's leg.
Right there, yeah.
Yep.
Something you got to
Other
look
than
at.
that, it's a great job, and I think
Great
you kind
job.
of really capture the spirit of what this challenge was
Yeah,
about.
yeah, absolutely. Okay,
All
so
right, awesome.
Frederick
Frederick.
S. All right, so here we go. Frederick S. Just to get the ball rolling on this, I think mood wise, I love it.
Yes.
I think that it's got a really nice. There's a real moodiness to this piece, which I love, and that's something that's easier said than done. That's a bit more of a talent than a
And
technical
it
approach.
yeah, and it takes a lot of subtlety to get something like that across.
Yeah. Now, I think one of the things that really stands. I don't know if you noticed this too, Tyler, but if you're gonna photo bash, you gotta hide the evidence.
Yeah, this is a
Unless-
little too obvious in several areas.
Yeah, like we see this. If you're going to, like, say, for instance, you've got this car, you've got the buildings and the silos and the building back here and the gravel road and everything like that, and this wheat field that are clearly photos. I mean, I'm looking at it, I can see it. I can see it in full detail that this is a photograph. Same with that car. You gotta paint. You gotta hide the traces so that we're not sitting there going, "Oh, look at that! There's a photograph that he just smacked into this painting." Right? You gotta if you're
You gotta
gonna
go all or nothing with it.
you're gonna paint, but don't do both at the same time, or it really sticks out like a sore thumb. Not
One
to say that it's bad to use photos, but if you're going to use photos, you have to put the mileage in there on your own so that it integrates nicely into the piece,
one
right?
way to get around that too is to literally just paint, the image up to around 90% on your own, so you're actually doing all the heavy lifting, and then maybe just supplement with what you painted, that last 10% with some photos to kind of help, maybe like a little detail in the sky or a texture on the ground, something like that. And then as you kind of get over that and kind of develop those skills more, maybe you can jump in with the photos earlier and earlier.
Yeah.
But it does create a striking type of imbalance with the amount of detail in places.
Yeah, it's too evident. One little thing I'll mention here is be careful. Like using a rule of thirds in this particular case could help you a little bit, because if you'll notice, I didn't even spot that there was actually characters down here. I didn't even notice until about 5 seconds ago. There's actually an important part of the story going on, but
Yep.
you've hidden it in the corner of the image. You'd more likely want to. I would take this whole image and move it in, so that these characters maybe move this whole section here closer up, so that we actually our eyes go, oh, these guys are actually being. There's actually somebody in threat, because before then, one of the comments I was going to make was, who is this god conflicting with? And then I went, oh, okay, I guess he's conflicting with these guys.
Yep.
Right? So be careful not to hug the frames of your image with important elements. You want to keep them a little bit more centered in the
Yep.
piece so that you spot them. Yeah. All right?
But overall, the concept itself is really terrifying, and I think it does capture the spirit of the contest as well, really well.
Yeah, and a beautiful, beautiful sense of mood. So 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. All right. Lars Wiggle, which is not our first time. We're not our first time looking at Lars's work. I think the name sounds familiar to me. So
This is definitely a different approach to it,
yeah,
stylistically and concept itself.
cartoon, light-hearted approach to the gods. A little bit. There's some real tongue-in-cheek humor going on here. It's really cute. Definitely stuff. Like this would be like a conflict with the gods for kids book,
Or like
know?
something
It's
more
just-
editorial, even.
Yeah, yeah, like it makes you laugh. You look at this and you kind of go, just seeing angry, red-faced God in the context of a children's book is funny. I like it. It really makes me laugh. So yeah, any technical critiques you might be
Yeah,
able
it just doesn't look finished. It's not even. I mean, there's some anatomical wonkiness, in that. But it just, I think if you go with like this type of style, just make sure it's extremely consistent and at least finished up to the level that you're going for. Like,
Yeah.
because you have those two characters over there, we don't even see their faces, and well, it just doesn't look done. I mean, that's what it is. So maybe some harder or crisper edges on some of the, the architecture, the structure, like the street, the curb, a little bit of a firm edge on some of those would help as well.
Yeah, yeah. Just compositionally, look up when it comes to composition and color as well. I mean, saturated colors definitely work more in a cartoon atmosphere, so that's why you do get away with it. And there's some nice, gentle color harmonies coming up here that I think are kind of nice. Like the pinks and greens. They're visually nice on the eyes. Be careful when you start bringing in a third and fourth and fifth color, because then you're starting to lose control of your colors, and it can get a little bit. It makes it basically, you're looking at it going, I'm losing the sense of harmony in this piece because you've got too many hues all throwing around at the same time. So try to simplify your colors, simplify your composition, and try to use some basic principles of this to just make an overall more successful piece of artwork. And you'll see what a huge difference it makes for this. And reference, like if you're going to put an arm in there, don't try to do it from your head. Take a picture of your own hand, or look up pictures of hands and stuff like that, so that you got something to go by, even if you stylize it. You're not just doing this weird looking thing, right? So good. And anything else you want to add, or?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered it all.
Yeah, very fun piece though. This definitely got my giggle working. I had fun with this. And here we go. This one is just damn. This one's probably the most hardcore out of all of them. Yeah. So, go for it.
I think with this one, I think a consistency with your level of finish is my largest concern at this point. Maybe think you're doing a really challenging pose and piece and everything, but I think the reference needed aside, which I'm sure you did grab some reference, but this is the type of situation where I'm not confident enough to say the underlying drawing of it was drawn out well. So of course when you add paint on top of it, it will only be as good as the drawing that you're going from.
Yeah.
So with that, it's just take yourself time, do revision, pass after pass to really make sure the drawing underneath it all is really working. Because like the hand, her right, well, yeah, her right hand is just really coming off weird there. The whole stomach and chest area is. And then it looks like she's just kind of got little tiny legs, even though I know it's a foreshortened type of situation. It's just, there's just so many. The only thing consistent about this is how many inconsistent things there is.
Yeah. And you know what that is? That's simplification.
Yes.
You're somebody who you've I don't know how old you are or how much experience you have or if you've trained yourself professionally or not or if you've taken mentorships or gone to school about it. But looking at this, like Tyler said, you're taking on a lot in a painting. You've got, and plus you're mixing in a lot of, there's so many different techniques you're using mixed into this painting all at the same time that it creates something that's consistently inconsistent. It's all over the place. The clouds are painted by hand. This is drawn by hand. This has been referenced because we got a lot of detail in this face, but then this isn't, and this isn't. And then you've got some photo work in here. And I'm sitting there going, bleh, it's confusing. Yeah. So
there's no value, structure, or color harmony.
Yeah. None whatsoever.
So just start, don't take so much on your plate at once. Just work on your drawing skills and really just, get down a nice drawing. And then if the drawing eventually looks good, then tone it. Maybe figure out a lighting situation for the drawing and you kind of just take things on step by step.
Yeah. Yeah, start with a character. Start with studying anatomy. Start with drawing a building. Don't try to do it all simultaneously from your head. It's never going to work. Study requires reference and all that kind of stuff. And simplify your values, simplify your composition, simplify all of those different things, and you're going to see a lot more success with the painting. But you definitely have a carefree imagination that is going to take you.
Yeah, and it's awesome that you entered.
Yeah, and definitely keep it coming, man, because you can only get better, right? Absolutely. So Tobias Winter. All right, let's see what we got here.
This is another one. I love the idea, but not as much of the execution.
Yeah.
This is the thing, just camera-wise, we're looking at I'll look at the cinematography of this. It's just, we're a little too pulled far back from the picture frame to take this all in.
Yeah.
This is a massive, massive creature. The scale is because we can see battleships, little tiny battleships down there and everything.
Oh, is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah, but again, that leads to another problem. Is it's so dark.
Yeah.
It's hard to see what's going on. But if you ever seen like one of these warships at night, they're lit up. There's lots of internal cabin lights, beacons on the ship themselves, and that's not there either. So again, reference and then color, all these little things will add up.
Yeah.
But my biggest tip that this could be applied to a few of these images I've seen where, if I have a comment where we're just taking too far to the scene, if you're not sure what an angle to do, just imagine yourself as a character in the scene as just like a bystander. So maybe you're on the deck of one of these ships and we're looking off onto the horizon and we have this massive, massive creature coming and we could see these other boats coming in from the other sides. It will really put you into perspective and bring us in as a viewer participating in the scene.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what the camera is. The camera is who's the person holding the camera. And if you look at this, you see battleships. The conflict is between this big sea creature, elephant creature, or a kind of octopus god against these battleships. Yet the character is looking at us, so suggesting, is the camera guy standing on a mountain? Mm-hmm. So the creature's conflict is with the guy standing with the camera on the mountain versus the ships that are shooting at it.
Yeah, right? It creates that disconnect.
And that moonlight is going to create more light. Moonlight is actually a lot stronger than you think. All of this area will be illuminated. Yep. And if it's not, all I saw was a little orange thingy. I thought maybe, are these people? Is it rocks? What am I looking at? I lost all of that information. So illuminate the scene a little bit more. If you've got boats, make sure we see them in the moonlight, right? So again, reference is definitely going to make a huge difference for that. Anything else?
Awesome idea, though.
Yeah,
that is a menacing god.
That's a badass.
He's got wings, he's got muscles, and he's got tentacles.
Yeah, I'm not making fun of his mom anytime soon. That's for sure. We got Toby, famous Mr. Toby Fox.
Awesome.
Who's almost as good looking as me. Almost. He wishes. Actually, no. He's a lot better looking than me. All right, so go for it.
All right. this is another one where we've got this high moment of tension, and there's a lot of ideas. We have this kind of god of the sky with all these winged creatures, and we have this god of the sea at the bottom,
Yeah.
with the little whales, and that's really kind of setting up the scale of how big these mammoth creatures are, like absolutely gigantic, titan,
Yeah.
titan size. But again, this is the same. We're getting that a little bit of that same disconnect where we're just pulled a little too far back from it, viewpoint wise, and then there's there's a few other elements going on in play here that's making this come off a little bit more static and stiff than you're probably going for. You want to tell them about that, Adam?
Well, yeah, right off the bat, I think rendering and creatively, this is gorgeous. This
And
is a
yeah,
gorgeous
it
piece of
hits
artwork.
it hits what you want in terms of that.
Yeah, and Battle of the Gods. These are gods. I think there's compositionally, the composition itself is balanced nicely, but you got to be careful with awkward tangents. Like for instance, this whale that's along the moon, which is he's hugging the horizon and he's almost kissing the side here, which you got to be careful with. This is good. This is good, but this one's creating a lot of confusion. And at first, it made me not realize I'm actually looking at whales, which is such a big part of this. So, like the god of the sea and the god of the sky. The thing that's the big glaring thing that makes me go gah was the oversaturation of color. There's two. If you're going to work with more than one color, let's say in this particular case, more of a complementary color scheme. Then be careful that they're not in equal force and equal abundance. You want one of the colors to be knocked back and have your one accent color. And furthermore, you don't want to have that much glaring lipstick blood red going on in taking up that much real estate on an image, because it's going to be a terrible eyesore. And you furthermore want to balance it with something else in the scene. So like right now, it basically makes him look cut and paste into that spot. He doesn't integrate naturally into the scene because this blood red character is the only spot we see it, right? So you want to maybe find a little bit of red in his thing here, a little bit maybe in the golden designs around on his horns and stuff like that, just so we're not just staring at a red blotch on the image, right? And you see that will allow us as an audience to really fully appreciate just how much work and imagination you put into this piece, because that's just stealing weight. It's that girl standing on the edge of the stage singing louder than everybody else, and you want her to just shut up, right? So just be careful with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But you're awesome. So
yes, brilliant idea.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so here we go. We got Robert Garcia. All right, definitely the gods have spoken. Oops, didn't mean to do that. The gods have definitely infiltrated this piece of artwork here. So let me see what's going on here. It's a little unclear.
That's what I'm trying to figure out right now.
Yeah, because I see...
Where's his leg?
Oh, okay, these are people. And
there's little people in it.
He's got one captured, and he's trying to capture this guy, and I guess he's force fielded himself, protecting himself from the god.
Mm-hmm.
Something really interesting, beautiful, something going on here with these colors are neat. I like this nice use of natural colors here, and I like the flow. Okay, so there's these people, small people attacking the gods, and the gods coming down for a thrust, and he's clearly done a little bit of yoga because he's in quite the...
Is he doing the splits?
He's doing the splits, dude.
Okay.
That's a splitting god. This god has got some swag. All right. So what do you think? What's the first thing that jumps out at you?
Well, the first thing was that nothing immediately jumped out the way it might want to on a piece like this, because I was trying to assess what was happening, and I think that stems from the lack of like a really solid value structure with this. Just in terms of, we could simplify things like, and really kind of push the background further back, or and then have the back. There's too much contrast on the foreground, or there's none of that contrast on the focal point itself, which is in that center area with the actual Titan.
Yeah,
it's all like on the snow versus the trees and stuff. And again, that is clearly too photo bashed in compared to the nice hand paintedness that's going on with the character stuff. They're still like kind of battling each other.
Yeah.
In terms of as an aesthetic itself.
Yeah, like if you actually both in terms of value and color. If you look, the color of his shirt is the same color as the skin. This god is his body alone. That skin tone that you've got, that kind of puce color, is occupying like 35% of the entire canvas space. It's a lot of real estate. Yet this little guy's got a shirt that's the same color and she's the same color. We totally lose that. If you're going to have tiny characters competing with this big god, you want to give them a color that really stands out, maybe a blue or a red that really pops. So our eyes immediately go, oh, okay, little guy's fighting a big guy. Here, we totally lose that. And if, furthermore, if I take this into grayscale, we've lost him. Like, where's this? We don't. It's all of this is the same value. So you've got to find a way to really make those values pop, so that the silhouette and the framing of this character really sticks out, because that's where the story's happening. He's the badass. This little guy here is the badass, and we don't even see that he's there, right? And texture wise, you know Noah Bradley or Chris Oatley says, "Beware the texture monster," right? The texture and all of the concentration of contrast and texture should be around this area where the story's taking place. But you've got all of your texture and contrast here, where nothing's happening.
Yeah, and that's taking up almost a quarter of the image.
Yeah. Yeah.
Real estate. Always consider the real estate and what's happening on your picture plane.
Make investment. Investment is very important. But rendering is just, wow, you put a ton of work into this, and godliness. And you know what? He gets points just for putting our god in the splits, because good luck seeing a guy with that kind of muscle structure who can pull off the splits. I dare you. All right. So we're at Eduardo Brito. And, well, that's gorgeous.
This is gorgeous. You're making a bold statement with the saturation that you have going on in here, which normally, from a personal place, I usually have a lot more problem with that. But I think it's, for the most part, really working here.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot going on. You were careful with tangents. You've got a nice value structure where this is nicely grouped together like that. And you're careful, like the tip of the sword does not intersect awkwardly. This is kind of a
little bit there
to a corner,
and the top of the head as well with the
here.
Watch that as well.
Here as well.
But you got like this, a really nice sense of like this skewed kind of dynamic perspective going on. Just raise the top of that back there a little bit, and then maybe take that color that you have with the blue in the sky and add that in a little bit into some of that area in the background, and it will push this character in the foreground a lot closer to us, and will kind of help with the distance and the.
You gave yourself a bit of an awkward challenge here too, if you think about it, because you put the main character, the real actor in this scene, in front of an area that has a lot of open and closed value areas, which makes it logistically a real headache. And what you normally, if you look at a lot of master painters and study a lot of works that people have been doing this for like 30, 40 years type of idea or more, you'll notice that very often your character is going to be standing in front of a bit more of a neutral background.
A simplified area.
Yeah, a simplified area, so his silhouette reads better, right?
It's all about getting him to read as a silhouette, either through color or through value. And if he's a complicated character, you simplify the background. Likewise, you could have a simple character in front of a more busy background.
Yeah, less is more, in that regard. Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I'd say, Tyler, is this does have, I don't know if you feel about it, this kind of brings me back to kind of like the adventure sci-fi fantasy novels I used to read back in the 1980s.
Yeah, like an adventure serial from like the 50s and 60s and stuff.
There's a bit of an old school feel to this, which I really like.
Yeah, I love it.
But there's a lot of saturation going on in here, which kind of is what lends itself to that type of feel because of the type of medium they used to illustrate back then. But maybe try playing around, like maybe add a little, knock back the contrast back here a little bit more, add a little bit more depth, because the saturation and richness of him and this and this and this is all like they're all within the 80%.
Yeah, just copy the whole painting and desaturate the whole thing by like 50%, maybe even more, and then you can go back with a layer mask and just pick a few of the key areas to keep that saturated.
Absolutely. Oh, you know what else you could do? Look at Magic the Gathering art. Okay, look at the art for Magic the Gathering and look at how they separate character from background. You'll notice almost like 90% of the time there's a real value contrast knockback for the background, and the character itself is going to pop with high contrast, and that kind of idea. That's something that could lend itself a lot to what you've done here. Just to have a look at that. Okay.
All right. Awesome job, though. It's definitely one of my favorite pieces.
Stuff, yeah, same here. Really nicely done. Okay, this I will say right off the bat, this is definitely a fine artsy type of piece, but You might have not realized what the painting was about. This is about an epic god battle, and this is
Hmm.
a portrait done in a very, I might say, very beautiful fashion. I love the rendering style of the piece, but it doesn't. It just has nothing to do with the story. This is
No,
just a portrait, right? This isn't
fine
a
arts
copy.
portrait. So
Yeah. So I don't know if I can really offer any constructive feedback apart from, and I don't even know if this is an original piece.
it's awkward to me. It looks like a colorized black and white photo.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think of
Like,
it.
was it done as a study? I too many unknowns with this. It's
It could
maybe
be,
it aimed for just a little too far off the mark for the
yeah.
rest of this. So
It could just quite simply be that whoever painted that Austin just didn't realize that that was the theme. He thought it was just an art submission. So if you know for next time, if you're handing stuff in next time, Austin, which I recommend you do, uh, read up on what the actual theme is for that painting because that's always the case. Because
and
now
I'm
something,
getting better on my end too to make the description a little even if a vague interpretation topic. I'm trying to lay down more of a guideline so people
okay,
there's less of this going on in the future.
sure, yeah, no, that would definitely help for sure. But I mean, as far as rendering style, if this is an original piece, then I like where it's going. It's definitely beautiful for a portrait, but for this particular competition, I don't really. It
That
doesn't.
wouldn't really apply here.
So we've got Jessica
Jessica.
Lee. Jessica.
And there's a lot of beautiful things going on with this, and as your work usually does, there's something really kind of subtle and symbolic
Yeah.
going on here. Not quite as direct as some of the other pieces, in which I kind of would look for on something like this, but I think knowing how you use color, I'd love to see this in color as well. And that may help it.
And Jessica's very good at color too. I've seen her work before.
Yeah,
She's got a very nice sense of color. What I like too is how the god in this case is kind of has a very Wrath of the Titans type of thing going on, where the god is human sized.
mm-hmm.
Isn't this? It didn't go for the epic approach. Had the god come down to earth and mingle with her for whatever reason. Um, the narratively speaking, Jessica, what I'm seeing is the god comes across as being more of a perv than he's actually interacting with her.
Yeah.
She's kind of sitting there getting dressed, and the god's kind of sitting there, heavy breathing in the background, going. She doesn't actually see he's there. I'm just kidding, by the way. But that's I don't see the action interaction between them. I don't see
Mm-hmm.
the,
Yeah, there's a bit
a
of it.
confrontation that we should be seeing, and we're not seeing a confrontation in this sense. It's just passive God passively observing some
Yeah,
woman, right? So um,
but beautifully rendered though.
yeah,
Probably the best rendered one of this lot.
yeah.
Really beautiful.
A bit of clarity. I don't know how do you feel about that, Tyler?
No,
As
I
far as God
agree.
itself, yeah,
There's a lot of light versus dark light. So value structure wise, I think the things could be simplified in a few areas, but other than that, or maybe that problem could even be resolved again with on a color pass where you can control the saturation and
yeah.
the impact of the color to help kind of direct things a little bit. But yeah, that I was definitely thinking the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, and just maybe a bit of clarity around the god because I can't. It's kind of hard, especially with all the speckles and stars and all
The
that
mystical,
stuff.
the mystical god bits.
Mystical, the godly bits. I don't. I see his face was very hard to make out his face, so I would want
Like
to
if
see
his
that.
eyes were some of the more where the contrast were on the eyes, if they were like glowing like a deep
Yeah,
heart, and that would bring us into right into him.
that could be very cool. Yeah, very much.
But really awesome, and I always look forward to seeing your stuff every time. I really do.
Me too. And look, nice blur to the background.
So maybe
Nice
since
sharpness.
you've
Nice
basically got the rendering done, you're really good at that. Maybe before you jump into your images, maybe do a few more thumbnails or ideas where you map out with like a word bubble or something just to kind of figure out how exactly you want someone to interpretate it,
Yeah,
and clarify what your your ideas on a hierarchy and priority scale may look like, and
yeah.
then that'll help you frame things. So when you render it, it'll just be like blow everybody's socks off.
When Tyler does his work, when he we often share like works in progress with each other and stuff, and he'll send me like 12 different compositional studies, and he goes, Which one do you like most?" I'm thinking, "He did 12 studies, dude." He goes, "Yeah."
So I don't finish anything because I'm busy too coming up with
He
ultimate
calls it
ideas on
unfinished.
something.
His version of unfinished will piss you off, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me, because um, yeah. So Jorge. Oliveira, who always dazzles. He
Always
bedazzles he
dazzles. You
touches.
dazzler, you.
uh,
Who was on last month's brush offs, showing us how to paint some armor.
yes, yes. I'm digging this painting a lot, and definitely, like as far as the whole story of conflict with the gods, definitely feel that going on. We
I
feel. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree with you. And he's got the scale, the distance, and this is really clear, and this is a readable image.
Yeah,
But I know George's stuff, and I know he could go back and touch some of this up. I know he
yeah,
is better than this. It just looks a little too unfinished in a few areas
yeah.
for him. And I know he's got some polishing skills.
You know he had further to go on this paint. You know he didn't. This wasn't the final. He just submitted it.
Hmm.
I mean, a lot of this is very nicely rendered out. But like as far as this guy, like a little bit of bounced light because he's just a dark silhouette. A little bit of bounced light to illuminate all this cool armor. Because otherwise, all we just see is a mass, right? And if you are going to keep him as a form, then make those forms more stimulating to look at. Have more information going on in that form.
And
That
while
way,
we're talking about him, personally, for me, just him standing there all relaxed about it, that's not doing it for me. I'd rather having him be like dashing, right, and full front, full on, blown confrontation with this guy. Like he is charged with energy, ready to go, like
yeah.
confront this being. He's just standing there, just a little too chaxed. It's taking some of the energy out of the piece, which loses the impact for me.
Well, you know why though, Tyler? There's actually a reason why. Is because he's solid snaking it. He's not doing shit. He's just sending his droid out
The
to
little
do
droid. I love the little droid, but at the same time, I'd love this guy be blazing in on a motorcycle or running full sprint or have some kind of little booster back, just like using that technology that he has to kind of confront something more, ethereal and
I like that. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. See, I wouldn't think of droiding it. I would have him dressed in some like hunter outfit or something like that. But you're definitely. It's because I'm old, So
yep.
no, but I think that's very cool. Yeah, just some work. Just add a little bit of work,
Do a
some
little
bounce light, bring some shit
Yeah,
out.
like personally, if this is my piece, which is like kind of like a good backbone to kind of go off from, I'd do a slight bit of a Dutch angle, faking the perspective of it, bringing that camera down a little bit more, and having him in the forefront, dashing towards this guy on the horizon. And
Yeah,
I think, personally, anyway, that would increase the impact of this a lot more.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But awesome job, though.
You're a great artist, so I mean,
He is good. That's why I'm holding him to a high standard.
just don't get complacent, sir. Yes, we're at
This
Mandalore.
this is
Mandalore Auto.
definitely an interesting piece.
It is interesting. I haven't had a chance to actually look at this close up yet, but there's something very interesting going on with the with the rendering and the narrative. It's
There's a narrative here that I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I kind of like it at the same point.
definitely a very strong sexual theme to this piece. Our male figures. This is a male figure. It's a very feminine face,
Yep.
but hairless. Like there's no hair around the genitals. Same thing.
He grooms a lot.
He grooms this guy. You know what? He's a modern man. He takes care of himself. He's not letting himself because he's not letting his hair situation get out of hand. Um, the story itself is kind of like is it conflict in it? Well, kind of in a he's puppeteering.
Yeah, he's manipulating him, I
He's
guess.
not a boy toy. And he's kind of manipulating him, kind of
And
like
then there's gold pieces in his hand too, which adds another factor to it.
yeah.
I'm not directly sure what he's saying with that. I mean, he's like, "Take my money, bitch," and they're like, he's dancing. I don't know. I like
There's
that he's got an
cruelty.
afro and
It's taking the god's perspective this time. Usually,
yeah.
we're taking. If you look at all of these pieces throughout all of them, you're usually the person, and you're looking at the god. But in this case, the camera's higher up, so it's bringing us. We're thinking of this guy first, and we can see the scale. He's small, and he's toying with him. There's cruelty. There's a little smirk in his face. Very interesting. I gotta say,
No, it's definitely one of the more interesting and thought-provoking pieces.
and a very classical use of these gold
Color and
deep cut makes me think of that Bouguereau piece.
yeah,
He paints the devils fighting against each other. Kind of has that kind of dark, very like kind of the Leonardo da Vinci type of feel to it,
yeah.
right?
If he
Now,
wanted to push by that, I don't know how intentional that was. Just add a little bit more variety into that color you have. A little more greens, like an underlying, tone with some greens, and then add some like
yeah,
magentas in places.
okay, yeah, yeah, definitely. There's a lot of the gold going on. It feels like I'm looking at a romance novel cover, right?
Yes.
Anatomy, proportion, and sure as shit, if you're going to be doing this much figure in your paintings, reference that anatomy because there's a lot of stuff here that you can tell is very made up from your head. The proportions, Pay attention to proportions. Elbows, the length of the elbow here should be longer. The hands are way too big. Like this hand is this hand. You've
Big.
drawn the hand as if the hand's this big, right? Be careful with those proportions. Reference it. Use reference. You could turn this okay painting into an absolute masterpiece just by having some proper
Yep.
reference because you have the painting skill here. You're just trying to do too much from your
Yeah,
head.
it is one of the better rendered ones.
Yeah, I mean, wow, it's really nicely done. And compositionally, there's a little bit of wasted space. You could easily crop this in a
Bring
little.
it in there, bring it in there.
Provided you're not cutting off his feet, because you do want
Yeah.
to suggest that there's feet. You don't want to cut off the feet awkwardly, but you could take a little bit of an edge off here and bring our attention a little bit more into the piece.
Yep.
Like that, because there's a lot of negative space going on here that might not necessarily need to be there.
Yeah.
And be careful with your silhouettes. You've got high value against high value. So if I go,
And saturation.
we lose this character.
Yeah, we lose it.
If this silhouette was maybe here by his dark leg, it would make him pop, and we would immediately go, okay, he's puppeteering this guy. But here, I didn't notice that until I looked closely and spotted he was there. This is something you want to see right away, right?
Yeah.
But very interesting. I like your brain, man. There's some interesting stuff going on here, for sure. Anything you want to add?
No. You did that well.
All right, fair enough.
I
Okay.
agree, I agree with everything.
Yes. Yes.
Patrick.
Patrick B. Well, Sir Patrick, because your name is Sir Patrick Knight, because we are officially knighting you. God of War on steroids. Pretty freaking gorgeous.
My favorite part about this is your use of composition. This is how we bring us as somebody participating into this scene.
Yep.
You know, we could be his sidekick or his buddy right behind him, going in for another swing. You know, we're participating without really kind of being there, and that's what I really mean on a few of these pieces. If he chose to shoot, to depict this same scene, but from a more pulled back angle, where we're just kind of looking at it straight on with like a little stick guy jumping at him, we lose everything that this is about.
Yeah. Yeah, very much. So. Yeah, everything that Tyler said, I agree. And the values are good. Your contrast is very good. Like if we look at this in grayscale, look at that.
I still know what it is.
You still know what it is, and you can still read it in thumbnail form. And your colors help to emphasize that. One of the things I feel you might have struggled. I can imagine you probably struggled a little bit with making this background, getting that sense of depth between this god that's way up high, thousands of feet up in the air, versus the earth that's very far down. And one of the things that might have caused a bit of conflict is the fact that the god is so blue. Mm-hmm. And generally you would reserve that cool atmospheric blue color for the background.
Yep.
But this guy steals it. So you're kind of sitting there going, okay, I guess I'll give the background a bit more of a green and make the god blue. What I would do in that case is just focus on contrast and maybe add a bit more contrast around the edges here to make him pop a little more, so that we can really honestly sense that that's the earth and the little river way up there.
I think a little more color variety on him would be my biggest complaint.
Yeah.
Because it's well rendered. We can see it there. The forms are there, and it's colored but monochromatically. So maybe even if he's a blue type of god, get a little variety in there.
Yeah. And add a little depth in the mouth or something like that. Bring some contrast.
I mean, look at those fingernails right there. He's got like so much detail in this. I love it.
It's really lovely. Yeah, like honestly, this is professional grade.
I don't question any bit of the equipment that the guy has. It's all articulated and kind of figured out. But
the thought
little bit of anatomy gets awkward on the shoulder there, but
here, there's a little bump there that shouldn't be there. Type of idea. Bumps. Reference your anatomy a little bit. There's some bumps happening over here that makes him look more like a rock golem when in fact he is human.
So yes,
flesh skin.
If you go back and touch this up, which I hope you do, do some little anatomy check on the arms and sprinkle some color onto that guy.
Beautiful though. I mean,
it really is.
Yeah, definitely. Two enthusiastic thumbs deep into the dirt because I'm jealous. All right, so next is Joe Cowan, another familiar name.
I've always liked these types of scenes, Adams, where there's like some mysterious chamber hall with like these elder god things and they surround them, and we don't know what their intentions are. And when this guy's obviously trying to declare something, I've really always been drawn to these types of scenes. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, it kind of Indiana Jones and Crystal Skull meets
Yep.
Diablo 3 type of idea, right?
Yeah, I really do like this stuff.
Um, Again, totally agree. These faceless, ancient beings, which I think is really capture that ethereal feel of the gods. These ancient creatures, which is beautiful, um, and the scale comparison is beautiful too. I don't know. I'm thinking from a compositional perspective, we are looking down almost eye level with this guy over here, looking down at him who's over here. Compositionally speaking, there's a lot happening up here, and I would be tempted to separate it a little bit. Bring this guy down here a little bit, frame him a little bit better, and maybe bring the camera down to the characters level so we could feel the grandeur of these characters way up in the ground. Because it's kind of like, from this view, we're kind of being a passive observer of the action rather than being a part of the action, like Tyler always says. You want to immerse yourself in the action yourself. So the camera might be behind the character looking up at these huge gods. If you look at how they did it in Diablo, like with when Leah, the cinematic where Leah meets Asmodan for the first time, he comes up and he's like way up there, and the camera's on the table behind her, right? So that's how we get that sense of immersion in this scene. Where here we're not really immersing ourselves; we're being passive observers. So it's something to take into account. You know? How about anything else?
I'm, just taking it as it is, because although I say that for many, many images, that will require a complete redraw from scratch. But it just in terms of what you have here, I would, move the character down a bit, and then maybe make some ancient type of hieroglyphics or symbols on some of the, do some ornamentation on the thrones and the pillars and stuff like that. You can really increase the storytelling with a secondary narrative element like that.
Yeah, yeah, because it's very plain for a godly type of hangout, right?
And I don't know. I'd like to see some more of their eyes. Maybe have them glow like a warmer color or something. I don't know. That's a personal preference, I know, but
Kind of cool. Yeah, yeah, something, eh? Something. It's kind
I
of
mean, it's a really thought out and well designed concept itself, though. I do
yeah.
like it for that.
I like this turned shroud face too. I think that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
And I maybe even put a little more on the outsides, a little bit more into shadow, just to keep the focus right here, and then maybe add a few other secondary color accents like greens and purples in there as well.
Yeah, throughout. Yeah, I
It
think
would really accent it exceptionally well.
yeah. Well, nice, man.
All right.
Very nicely done, man. Joe, great work again. Great work again. All
So
right.
we'll go to
Next is block
block
bar.
bar.
This one's black and white, but we've got a lot of information going on here.
Yeah.
All right. All
See,
right.
I'm sure you probably didn't finish this. What do you say, Adam?
I'd
There's
say
too many questions.
okay, there's a few things throwing me off. When I actually, 'cause the reason why we're both having this kind of hesitant reaction, I feel, is because the value structure is very confusing. Everything
There is
is
none.
like within these grays, but then you put the high range of contrast in the darks, which are normally the attention grab, in areas that are irrelevant. The rocks in his pants, right? Why? Why would you do something like? The reason I'm not saying why sarcastically to be insulting. I'm saying why is you got to have to ask yourself why
Yep.
you're putting contrast there, right? So, for instance, where would I put contrast? Well, I'd put contrast back here to help push his silhouette. I would make sure this is high contrast. I would, knock back the contrast here because it's not that important. The pants, I wouldn't put a lot of contrast in here. I would put more atmospheric fog behind him to make his whole silhouette pop. There's black and white and gray going all over the place, and you got to think practically. I want to put darks and lights here because that's where the action's happening. I'm going to mute this down with mid grays because it's off in the background. I want things in the foreground to have higher contrast, things in the background to have less contrast. So you're thinking in terms of depth. But here, it's bouncing around all over the place. But you did reference your anatomy, right? There's reference in this, not the hands, but look at that. Look at how nice that looks. There's a lot of, you can see that you actually maybe took a picture or you found a reference or you took a shot of yourself. That's awesome because now I'm looking at this figure saying that's a cool looking character. I'm not sitting there going, that looks all off because you were doing it from your head. So big A plus for that because that makes a huge difference. Anything you want to add?
No, just really, slow down and spend more time planning.
Yep.
And we're running into that thing where the most detailed part of this image is that photo bit right behind the wing, which is a completely irrelevant part of the scene.
Yeah.
But that we've mentioned that a lot this month. But it's a thing. Watch out for it, everyone. It'll get you.
It will. Here's two quick references you can check out as well. Is whoever painted this, because it's just the name. But look up. Noah Bradley has a great video on YouTube about master studies, and he talks about controlling your values, the value studies. And the second thing, you can check out the work and look at how James Zapata, with the Zapata, James Zapata, simplifies his value scheme. And use that as reference. Light, medium, dark, job done. And everything is exactly where it needs to be. He can be experimental, but everything reads well. Use that as reference next time you're painting. Or tweak this painting based on the things that you pick up from those lessons, and it'll help a lot. Because they're very, very reliable. It's a good way of simplifying that kind of stuff. But that's the major thing. Apart from that, there's a lot of great stuff going on in this
Yeah.
painting. A lot of
Absolutely. I like the camera angle. We're in the scene.
Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah. We're looking past her to him.
Plan it up a bit.
Yeah.
So now we're on Antoine's.
Yeah. Antoine D. Not our first time with the great Antoine either.
No.
I think this is a lovely piece of artwork.
Yeah.
Beautifully rendered. I like the anatomy. This anatomy does look a little, well, maybe no. This could be referenced. This is referenced, although there's a few little, like the knee is a bit off maybe, but there seems to be reference here as well.
Yeah.
The body type feels very natural. I like that. And the rendering style has a nice soft feel. Antoine has a nice, I like your render. You have a very...
No, it's very painterly. I like it.
The colors are very nicely controlled. A nice complementary color scheme you've got going on here. Or almost like a split complementary color scheme going on a little bit, which is very pretty. I think it's lovely. I think that... I don't know what to say. There's something about it that feels
I like a lot of the softness of it, but I'd also get some more firm, hard edge details in there. Maybe some of the waves crashing and splashing around.
Yeah.
Keep playing. Maybe I'd make her hair even more wild, like really just doing that Frazetta, flowing hair.
Yeah. Real movement. Yeah.
A little reserved.
I think that's what it is. I think it's lacking the dynamic movement to it. It's a little...
A couple more of those birds, falling out, you have a hint of them over there, but it almost just seems like they're there for the sake of being there. I'd put them more like kind of just scattering away from her, like, things are really about to go down.
Have them overlap her so we can see...
And overlap that mountain on the left. It's creating a tangent with the one in the foreground.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. The size, the render... is beautiful, but as beautiful as it is, that particular, if you look at the psychology of color a little bit more, those colors are soft, gentle sunset. This isn't a battle scene color scheme. This is
That's when you bring in the reds and the oranges.
A nice, glass of port, sitting by the lake and drinking and having romantic, blanketed dinner with your significant other. That's what that color scheme is. It's romantic and it's soft. And her body is soft and pretty. It's not the only thing threatening about this entire piece is her expression and these guys who are about to skewer the poor lady, right? So I think that's the thing that's making my brain go, huh? It's throwing me off a little bit. But as far as if I was to put this color scheme and rendering in a different context, it would work immediately. I would say for this particular piece, try to look for something a little bit more imposing
and aggressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Let's keep it coming. Beautiful work on it.
We're gonna keep it moving.
All right. Aha. Now here is aggressive. We got our aggressive. Yep. All right. Keilodula.
Oranges and yellows sell them up real good.
Beautiful colors.
This has got a little bit of that motion and that dynamism that we were just talking that we need in the last piece.
Yeah, a lot of it. Beautifully. And beautiful colors. I mean, this complementary of the red and the blue is striking with this nice neutral bark. It almost looks like the movement. This is kind of like smoke, but bark smoke, which is gorgeous.
It's interesting.
I love that idea. and the flaming kind of yep,
Interior.
kind of dragon type of feel to it on the interior is
It's like a
gorgeous.
tree dragon.
Yeah, I, for one, just in case, just in the terms of this one character, and maybe this one here, is I don't know what that is. I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Let me look at this closely and see if I can.
It's a little
I have no
too.
clue what I'm looking at. It's beautiful.
Make it more humanoid somehow. A hand sticking up, and or maybe a
Yeah,
leg flying. Just a little bit more.
I just need to have an. If I know what this is, I'll know what all of these are. I don't need. You don't need to keep repeating. You don't need to be redundant. But at least this main one, the conflict between these two,
Yep.
I want to know what I'm looking at because I see armor and I see feathery wing cape something, but that's about all I can make out here. It's. I guess that's a character. I don't know. I really can't tell. The color's gorgeous and the movement's color, but movement's beautiful. But what's going on? You know, who is that? And furthermore, compositionally, is
Might be a little too far off the on the border. You know,
yeah,
a
you
little
move.
too far out of the picture plane.
So if you think about it, the action is happening here,
Hmm.
right? What about all this? What do we do with all that, right? So you're kind, and furthermore, you've taken an important thing, you shoved it off the side of the screen.
Yep.
I would be more likely to stick it here so that that interaction's like that. See? That's gorgeous work, though. Anything technically or artistically you'd throw into that? How do you feel? What's your gut telling?
No, I like a lot of this.
Yeah.
Really just, you know, crisper, clearer edges on those figures as they recede into space, and you can kind of soften them up and lose some of the detail. But
Yeah.
yeah, basically just putting them up into the picture on the stage a little bit better. Bringing that in, I think, helps too. There's just too much dead space on the right.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at that. Just cropping like that tightens it up a little bit
It
better.
does.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know, now if we take just if we were just to leave and look at that whole right third of it, and if you realize there's absolutely nothing valuable in there,
Mm.
you get rid of it. When in
Yeah.
doubt, simplify.
Exactly. Yeah. If it doesn't serve a purpose, it doesn't need to be there, does it? Yeah.
But awesome job.
You got it. You're a talented artist. This is beautiful artwork and beautiful conception, just a little lacking a bit of clarity. Okay.
All right.
All right. So we got here. We've got Goran. All right. So very interesting going on here, and it's again it has that kind of bit of that old school vibe to it, which I kind of
Yeah.
this kind of making me think about the old MMO, the old RPGs, you know, that I used to play and stuff like that. It's got that feel to it, which is pretty cool.
So definitely a narrative going on here.
Yeah, yeah. I'm feeling a bit of a lack of clarity. In this.
Yeah. A
Yeah.
bit. I'm not sure. Like I know there's a story here, but I haven't pieced enough information together to figure out even make an assumption of what that is yet.
Yeah. Okay. Photo textures.
I think it's got way too much of that type of misty type of like it's got this overlaying fog to it that's really just dominating when it doesn't need to be there at all.
No. It's, you know what it is? It's, you listen to the radio. You're listening to a song, and the core of the song is weak. So what do? They put a lot of cymbals and bangs and crashes and noise and sirens and all that kind of stuff because they don't want you to hear the part
The singer, if the singer's not doing a good
that's
job.
weak, right? And it's the same thing in here. You have a lot of smoke and effects and fire and texture and all that to decorate something that is technically the foundation of this drawing needs work. And you can't fool a professional. You can't. You can try all you want. You can't fool a professional. We've been doing it for a long time, right? So if you're looking at the arm and the hand and the pose and all of this type of stuff, you've put textures where you should have painted. You're frazzle-dazzling it where you just need to put more time into getting it right. Reference the face of this animal. You don't need to use all this photo texture. It's not making your painting any better. It's just creating a
It's
visual
distraction.
concept, right? You've got this clearly cut and paste photo texture of the fur. No, paint the fur. If you don't know how to paint fur, study how to paint fur. And furthermore, don't put a heavy texture into something that doesn't serve purpose.
Yeah.
All of the actions here and here. This is where all the storytelling's happening. This is where all of the action takes place. All of this can be knocked back a little bit. Reference your anatomy. There are muscles here that don't exist in the human arm, so learn how to draw the muscles of the arm. Learn what a brachioradialis and extensors, flexors, biceps, triceps, deltoids. Learn it, And for the rest of your life, you're going to draw arms well. Otherwise, you're going to be bluffing it and everybody's going to know it. And from a professional standpoint, that doesn't stand, right? If you're going to paint figures, make sure you do that right.
You're on a roll today, Adam.
Oh, I'm fire.
You get a sticker.
I am making this wolf cool in comparison. I'm on fire. Right. Yeah, no, but definitely because the imagination is there, but you're relying too much on digital techniques to fill in gaps in your learning.
And
In
the foundational drawing of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you can do it. You just invest your time into that instead of photo bashing. You're going to be good to go. All right.
That's going to be like the moral of this whole contest, I think, Adam.
Yeah. Yeah.
We because we never had to say it in 1 month as much as we had this month. So hopefully everybody, we just keep bringing it up, will take that into account.
Yeah. Beware the photo bash monster. Yeah. Now
this is the photo bash monster. He's coming up from the earth and he's going to eat you.
Yeah. And look at his expression. He's not in a particularly good mood. So, okay. So watch out. This is gorgeous.
I like the design of this concept is brilliant. I really do like it. One of my favorites.
And it's very original. Like,
yeah,
it's godly figure head coming out of the ground. There's very beautiful design with the Ankh, glowing Ankh, and the Ankh here. Like there's some real.
I love this core idea and even this setup, like the stage that this is all set on. I would change a few things though. The character and this being is on the same level. They're really almost like eye to eye, and this guy's even higher. I would have moved him down a little bit lower, and then maybe even change the pose just a bit so his back legs and arms aren't creating such a tangent with each other.
Yeah,
you could get a little more. It's almost like making him look really kind of awkwardly posed. Like he's got little tiny legs but a full size torso.
Yeah, like the arms and legs are the same length, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a little bit of awkwardness in there. And there is photo texture. If you look up close, we have photo texture going on in this piece. Here, we have a lot of photo texture, but it's not overkilled. It's just as an accent to a nice painting. And like for any of you guys that have used, where we were commenting and critiquing the photo texture, look how this is done. The real legwork was done by Mike. He just used photo textures just to add a little bit of information there so he didn't have to spend 3 hours drawing rock.
Yep.
Right? But the structure is there. The design is there. I don't really have anything I would add.
No. I mean, I would brighten up little bits of it, but with the guy being too high up, it creates. There's an entirely way too much dead space on the bottom portion of the picture.
Yeah.
That's why just moving him down will kind of fix a little bit of that. Maybe even tilting the whole thing just a bit as well.
Yeah.
A little tilt it so this guy you tilt it up so he goes upright. Just like that. And then you enlarge the more important part, and then move him down a bit. And I don't know. I think that would be really nice for this scene in particular.
Yeah, very cool though. Very nicely done, man.
Yeah,
done.
Awesome job.
Yeah, beautiful.
All right, now that leaves us on the final row.
John. Galling. All right, John Galling. Well, it looks like an Adam and Eve, and God is basically what's her face, Lady Shiraz from Black Temple. That is
This is pretty deep.
Yeah, that's pretty deep. And Lady Shiraz has a multicolored acid trip crosshairs on the wall. Maybe that's a stained glass window. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
There is an incredible. Okay, right off the bat, composition. Composition-wise, ask yourself, where is the story taking place? It's taking place here. This is not a part of the story. This, you can do that too. And just cut it out. This is what's happening. So now, just by knocking out this irrelevant, non-storytelling part of the image...
It's a lot better.
All of a sudden, now we have a nicely cropped image that keeps us centered in on the action. Because otherwise, my eyes kept going up to here going, what is that? What am I looking at? Right?
And so the other issue then within that picture frame is all the tangents going on.
A lot, yes. Here, let's point them out. Right here. A tangent, by the way, if you're not familiar... Because I'm looking at the work, it looks like you haven't trained a lot professionally. A tangent is when you have, let's say, my hand and my head. The outline of my fingers and the outline of my head are intersecting. They aren't overlapping or separated. They're intersecting, and that can flatten an image between foreground and background.
Yeah, like with the mushrooms and the side of the head.
Yeah, right there. Is that mushroom? Yeah. Clearly an acid trippy piece.
Yeah. The background arm and her head. There's like a bunch of little ones.
Right here. You can see that. There's a lot of these little tensions. So just be weary of that because from a technical perspective, it flattens things a lot.
And then you have like they're it looks like they're standing on a flat two-dimensional plane, but then that snake is kind of going back in space as if it
Yeah.
like the way their feet are in resting in space isn't consistent with the ground plane.
I'm curious, Tyler, how old our our artist is, how old John is, and because there's to me a very like for me, the older you get, the more trained you get. Very often, the more your imagination starts to take a nosedive.
No, it
In,
does.
you get so technical that you forget how to just have
Be
fun,
creative.
be creative. There's a ton of creativity in here, but technically, I can see, just needs training, right?
Training,
But
training.
I'd be very curious to know because if this is a younger artist submitting this artwork, I'm like, damn, this is pretty good, you know?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
really
Or somebody who's untrained for that matter. If somebody's like in their 30s or 40s but never took a painting class in their life, this is also pretty impressive stuff.
hmm
But I'm curious. I would say if the case, agree or disagree with me, Tyler. I think just training is needed overall.
Yeah, just training.
Just taking a class or two. That would definitely make a difference. But
You need a training
definitely,
montage.
yeah. And I love Lady Shiraz. She's my favorite boss from Black Temple. So
All right.
definitely get my vote for that one too. All right.
But in that, no matter when you're in anyone's position, if you want to get better, you do things just like this. You buy tutorials, you buy books, you submit to art groups,
Yeah.
get all the feedback you can get.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like John, bringing the
Like
thunder.
John Lau bringing the thunder as usual. Yeah. So go for it because I don't like comments.
I wouldn't expect anything less. Having some major, the main character of his scene jumping into action with some dynamic pose
Like
and literally bringing the thunder.
Tarzan attacking a tiger, perhaps.
Yeah.
Does that theme sound familiar? He's always got somebody leaping
It's
into this.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
we got some embodiment of Thor here, ready
Yeah.
to rain down the trouble on these soldiers, and I like. But this is that angle I'm talking about that we've talked about many times. This episode is put us in somebody participating in this scene.
Yeah.
That is not actually there, but we very well could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, I love it for that. I think, in terms of the depth of the amount of people on the ground, it got a little flat. Like, you could make a few of these larger, a few of these smaller, and you could, maybe the accent of the silhouette of some extra spears and weapons kind of going down in the distance, and you could create a much greater sense of depth within the bottom plane here.
Yeah. 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 Very much so. You know what else I'd say, just from an anatomical perspective, is the muscles are in the right place. Like you have the right muscles in the legs and the knees and all that kind of stuff. Be a little bit careful with your proportions. I find they're a little bit off. And for instance, a little bit of work you need here with the bicep and the arm muscles. But you know what a good thing to do too is
Yeah, the torso looks just a little too small.
act it out or picture yourself, even if you're just sitting in a chair. I do this with my animation students a lot, is where I tell them, get up off your ass and act, because you're drawing something from your head. You're drawing an action from your head. It's what you think and what you do are two worlds apart. And if you actually get up and do it yourself, you can realize, oh, naturally my hand will do blah, blah, blah. So if I'm swinging my arm, okay, look what happens when I swing and jump. Notice this hand comes out like this, and I'm not doing that. This is awkward. Right? I'm reaching back to make a swing, so this arm comes up to counter it, to come and make a hit type of idea. And it just happens naturally as soon as you get up and do the action yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So never try to paint an action from your head. Think of the action. Actually get up and act it a bit more, and you're going to realize, oh, okay, my body naturally moves in a certain direction. And that's something I'm feeling lacking a little bit in this character over here. And
But overall, really good job, though.
just one last thing, is a little bit too much lost in the dark. We're lacking a bit of clarity going on here. This character's cool, but here we're getting a little muddled. So try to, maybe this light
Accent
from
color.
him is going to be catching. We're going to feel little rim lights along here to help separate those guys. Okay? Say cool?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let me see what we got next. All right. This one is pretty freaking sick.
Yeah, a lot
Awesome.
going on.
I love the detail in this piece a lot. So yeah, what do you have to say?
A lot of red. It's the first thing I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I think I think the depth in the image could get improved just a bit.
Yeah, yeah,
Make the things in the foreground really bright and the things in the background really dark, or go in and just add some atmosphere at this point,
mm-hmm.
and really work on structuring some of the values there with that in mind. But you have nice detail in rendering, you really do,
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
and there's a nice sense of storytelling. Again, I don't want to be the guy that always just jumps into the negatives. Maybe sometimes maybe I can, but I mean, there's a lot to like here for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful use of detail. Have you ever played Hearthstone, Tyler?
No, I haven't.
By Blizzard.
Yeah.
Hearthstone. It's got this immediately. When I looked at the rendering, I was thinking of like the adventure one that they had come out recently. I can't remember. It's like the
You like
Indiana
the
Jones type
rendering.
of theme thing. It really has that kind of Indiana Jonesy adventure type of render.
Yeah.
Really feel that. I love it. And the characters too. They live within that world. I really like that about it. Um, uh, Again, light, medium, dark. Focus on that value range and simplify it. If you want this character to pop, but the background here is dark, well, then you're going to want to raise the value of this a little bit to make him pop. Make that silhouette of this creature here pop a little bit more so you can read it a bit better. And balance your cool and warms. Maybe add a little bit more cool to this background here, so you're
Yeah.
not red occupying so
Yeah,
much.
the red is just it's so heavy, you know?
Yeah, yeah. We need a little psychological relief from that a little bit.
It's an intense piece, but I like it.
Yeah, this is definitely a beautiful piece of artwork by far. Lachlan Randall. Lachlan. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that well. All right. Next we have
Well,
Michael Christoph. Mikhail Christoph.
This is a deep one as well.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
hand of God is coming forth.
Yeah. Very interesting how the god would be just the hand. That's kind
Yeah, I like the camera angle and the rendering on this. The
Yeah.
colors as well.
Nice soft texture to this. It almost feels like powder, like baby powder type of texture to that. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think?
Maybe like a little more of a blue tint or color tint to that white. The white is just it's really, I don't know, a little too jarring for me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like if it had a subtle yellow feel to it or blue or so the white's just too white for me, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you have like kind of this complementary color scheme going on here, right? Got the greens and the reds.
I'll literally come when I'm done.
The red is overpowering, right? The red is a little bit overpowering in this piece. You've got so much of this rusty sepia color. Where in the background, where for this you need probably a little bit more to counter that. You want to have a little bit more of the green, maybe a little bit more in the earth itself. The other thing I would say is a lot of dark and a lot of lost information. What's going on here? His body and the shadow is getting lost. The tangent here with the dark is getting lost. It's lacking a little bit. Work with your light on dark, dark on light a little bit more to create a little bit more clarity.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. And a lot of negative space all over a lot of empty space with nothing going on. If you're going to have this much negative space...
Like you could do swirls or formations in the clouds leading us around the impact of that hand kind of coming through the heavens or something,
Yeah. I was going to say exactly what I was going to say too. Yeah, absolutely. It'd definitely make a big difference. Look at that beautiful rendering through the clouds with the stars. More of that would be awesome. This is very beautiful in the eyes. That negative space into the stars is gorgeous. Yeah, that's what I would say.
An awesome job.
Beautifully done. Yeah. All right. So let me see here. We've got Jithin Rhoda. Okay, what your 25,000th piece you've submitted? Well, all right.
He's a regular.
Yeah, really beautiful stuff. So I guess I could start off. First thing that jumped out at me, it does feel a little bit unfinished in the sense that it feels unfinished because you've got so much of this in the dark. Between this character and this and this and this and this, there's so much of this darkness going on.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to make out all of these look when you look up closely how gorgeous these details are. The anatomy and the detail is beautiful. There's a lot going on in here that I'm losing because of it. The other thing that really jumped out at me, I know there was something you were feeling about color work, but the one thing I wanted to mention about poses when you have multiple characters, be very conscious about apparent redundancies. Look at this guy and this guy and this guy. They're kind of all. It almost feels like they're almost in the same identical pose, which looks very cut and paste. So just be careful with that. Try to vary the angle and that kind of thing a little bit more
Yeah,
to
yeah,
give
that's a good point.
randomness. Yeah.
But there's just I've seen this. I've seen you do really awesome work, and there's just like a lack of painting in this one. The background just looks. It's all very washed out, and I think if you have this beautiful design here, but if you had applied like a whole a lot of work into painting it, instead of relying on the 3D poses and then just that one little light source behind the guy with the lens flare, but if you like actually painted out the sky with a horizon with some of that orange and red kind of freaking through, and then maybe like use cool accents on the backsides of some of these guys, you'd have like a real lot of awesome stuff going on here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you have that big sunlight there, then like some clouds or some monster, something over on there, but that's picking up none of that light coming from the sun there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And then
bright.
of course the whole bottom half is just getting lost in the darkness. When we've seen like some of your other pieces where you're using, colors and light, I've seen how you can handle it, and,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this
Yeah.
is just I
It feels
expect more from you.
unfinished. Yeah, no, it feels unfinished for what we're used to seeing you do. And look at that perfect excuse you have to have beautiful white rim lights coming from this bright light, which will solve two problems
Yeah,
at the same
those
time,
nice
right?
glows, frontal glows, like a Todd Lockwood piece. Look up Todd
Yeah.
Lockwood
Yes. Good
on how he
example.
does his fantasy illustration.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. You know what else too? If one of the things that I didn't catch at the beginning was kind of like from Wrath of the Titans, where these gods, these kind of like flying creatures come in and just start tearing people to pieces, right? They start just grabbing people and taking off with them. That's kind of what you've got going on here. This flying Valkyrie type of creature that comes in, that's swooping. I didn't realize he was one of a gang. And if you want to make it look like,
I didn't notice that till you just said it.
yeah, you need a transition rhythm into there. So big, medium, small, small, smaller, so that our eyes can make that transition from foreground to background to show that it's actually an army of these guys flying in. It's not just him, because this just looked like him and birds.
Yep.
So make that transitional thing there going on. Uh,
But awesome
really
idea
finish
and layout.
this because this is a big successful piece of work waiting to happen. It just needs those little tweaks to it. But don't just scrap it because this is gorgeous. There's got a lot going on here. Yeah. Anything else?
Nope.
Thumbs up. All right.
We'll do Raphael's.
All right. We've only got two left. Boo. All right. Now, you were really taken by the detail in this piece. We were talking about
Yeah, I
this.
like the pose and the angle, and even the composition. But there was something that both kind of takes a lot away from that.
Mm,
And for me first, that's the value structure.
yeah.
There really is not one. You have real stark contrast on the bottom of the image and really irrelevant aspect, parts of the picture plane where we want the storytelling to be focused on that shaman guy, that deity that's up there. But we have like these really bright and dark things like competing for that attention down low. But on top of that, it's something else too, and that's the color.
Right. Yeah. The
Um,
color is
all over the place.
It looks like a rainbow vomited all over your painting. I know. I'm just trying to be funny,
He
but
means that in the best of ways.
I do, of course. It's colorfully like if you deconstruct certain things, like if you deconstruct the color going on here and here, I love that. I think it's very playful. You went with a very triadic color scheme, right? You've got lots of hues. You're
Blues,
losing
greens,
fun, having
purples.
fun, which is great. But it's basically just it feels to me like you just took colored markers and colored in a black and white image without giving anything any particular depth, and everything has got that same intense treatment of saturation, which cannot do anything but create an eyesore. It just makes you go, I need to give my eyes a break. It's too strong. It's like staring at a burning fire for 2 hours. You can't do it, right? So your eyes need a place to rest in a painting. If they don't, the eyes go elsewhere to
And
find rest.
yeah, the highlights are just they're overexposed. When you have something lit up at all here, you burn it out to like a pure white,
Yeah.
which you don't want to do. And then the things that are dark, they look pure black.
Yeah.
Control your range.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you know what else too? You could. I recommend looking up the artworks of William Bouguereau. Look at how he'll have his composition, his figure or figures in the piece, and then what we very often do is he'll have a backdrop of dark trees,
Yep.
but the characters are silhouetted by a backdrop of dark trees. And then to create that sense of depth that you have over here with the sky, you'll just have a little hole in the trees. Look at his paintings. You'll see all of his paintings, he's got the dark trees with a little hole to peek through to the background.
Sky
That's all
hole.
you need. But what he's not doing is putting these high textured, overcharged trees and textures and wiry stuff going all over the place.
So we got purples, we got greens, we got blues, we got yellows, and it's just like, whoa.
Yeah, but the texture, the trees, there's just so much heavily charged texture and form to that trees that we lose our main character.
It's the busiest part of the texture, but it's also right behind the focal point, which we want, and that's what on top of the color, it's competing in terms of, and that's the same thing we talked about on Eduardo's piece in the yellow over there. It's like you have the busiest texture behind where we want to focus on, where we want to simplify what's behind him in this situation.
Yeah, but look at how nicely drawn this is. You know, that's nicely done.
The drawing is some of my favorite among the competition here. It's
yeah. If you took out this background, all of a sudden everybody would go, "Wow, this is nicely drawn." But because we've been have somebody scream at our face with form and all of these trees, we can't appreciate it because our brain is numb from staring at all these trees and colors. So
we're out of time on this one.
Yeah. All right.
But that just means we really like it, and awesome piece. But we're trying to keep a schedule.
Well, of course.
My boat already left. You probably saw me get up.
And I'm teaching a class in 15 minutes, so I better
Yes.
hurry. Yeah. So last but not least,
Chris.
I think the mood of this piece and the painting style is beautiful, but narratively, I see kind of a scarecrow horror creature type of going on, but I don't feel God. Right? This is just a dick who just burned down a church type of thing.
Yeah.
Right? And color-wise, the colors seem a little
Blue
bit
and orange, although they're complementary, there's just still too much. It looks like they were just too much glazed over a black and white image.
yeah.
Because there's no depth to them. There's like one shade of blue, one shade of yellow or orange.
And what was the theme of this week's competition? What's the theme we were working with?
Conflict with a god.
No. But what was the theme that the
no, that was the photo.
photo bashing?
Yeah.
Well, we got that going on here again. We basically have a photo bashed church with very loosely painted background around it, and that just stands out like a sore thumb. The fact that you have this texture and then these loosely painted details around it, and the photo bashed trees. I think maybe not.
He got some texture, but the forms are a little weird.
Sorry, my student's submitting work here, so it's giving me pop-ups.
He's teaching in 10.
Teaching in 10. Yeah, but basically what this is spend more time with the... Oh, for fuck's sakes. Sorry, my...
Sorry.
But it's going to keep happening, I guess. He's decided to submit his work all at the last second. This needs more work, more rendering, and again, balance your values. Dark, medium, light. Don't come in with dark, medium, light all over the place. Saturation all over the place. Texture all over the place. Control that. Take your time and control it and plan your piece a little bit more, and you're going to have a lot more success with that.
Yep.
Okay?
But overall, nice job. So, Adam and I have our favorite two picked out.
We do. So go for it. I'll let you do the honors.
Want me to say them both? Or
sure.
Well, yeah.
Start with our runner-up. Start with our runner-up first.
Eduardo's.
Yes, Eduardo Brito. Beautifully done. This was a jaw dropper for both of us here.
Yeah, just the drawing in it itself is very good. And aside from those few tangents and the saturation, which he could fix a lot of these in like 10 minutes. It's a phenomenal piece.
It really is.
And it has a lot of narrative to it.
Got so much going on here.
Love it.
So much fun. And our second one is...
And our favorite piece is Patrick's.
Ta-da! Which
encapsulate everything.
It's gorgeous.
From conflict with the god.
It really, narratively, character, pose, all of that was like just freaking fun and well done. One of my favorite parts is the details in his armor and the shape of his leg and his butt here with his back is just an aesthetically nice form.
He must work out.
Not that there's anything wrong with me feeling that way. I'm kidding. But you just nailed it on the head. The only thing is, I think we both agree was anatomy, right? We needed reference that anatomy in the arm a little bit more, and that's it. That really would.
But it's a really well crafted piece overall.
Yeah, beautiful.
Awesome job.
And I would, if you don't mind, an honorable mention. I know we didn't kind of plan an honorable mention, but
go for it.
I would throw in for definitely for Lachlan. Absolutely loved, And
Yeah.
Toby's piece I really loved here, and I think Mike gets an honorable mention as well.
Mm.
Just in terms of storytelling and composition and rendering and imagination and all that kind
Yep.
of stuff, it just needed
There's
a
a
little.
lot to love about that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, thank
So
you, everybody, for submitting and participating in this.
yes, absolutely.
These will continue.
Absolutely, yeah. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And don't forget as well that both Tyler and I have mentorship, an online mentorship, if you're interested in brushing up on
And
those.
I'll be starting with the CGMA Art Academy this February. I'm teaching the architecture design course. So if you're interested and haven't signed up, now would be the time to do so.
Yeah, you don't want to miss that. You definitely don't want to miss that. Yeah, so got a lot of fun stuff to look
And
forward
we're
to.
looking forward to seeing everyone's work again next month.
Yes,
So take
absolutely.
care.
Take care, everybody.